And now, the final step is to immortalize your code, give it to the world for all to see and use. It's time to push it to GitHub. The first step, we need to get this project to Git. So let's open Git Bash. So first we need to make a Git repository. Remember, a repository is a code project folder that is under Git's control, meaning that it will track any changes you make to it and let you collaborate with other cool AF coders on it. To initialize a repository for our Sting the Catapult code, we first need to tell Git to open the folder where the code actually lives. So first let's type cd, aka change directory, and the easiest way to direct it to our project folder is to find it in Explorer, so this PC, and then C, users, then your username, and then our Eclipse workspace. And then our project folder will drag into the terminal and then it'll paste the path to it. And when we hit enter, we'll see now that we're working inside of our project folder, so all commands that we type here will only apply to the project folder. Let's make sure that this project folder isn't already turned into a Git repository by typing Git Status, so we get an error meaning that this still needs to be turned into a Git repository. To initialize a Git repository in this folder, we just need to type git init and boom! So now let's type Git Status again. You can do that by hitting the up arrow and we can see what's up. So you can see everything that's in the project folder in red, and that means that Git sees these files but isn't managing and tracking changes to them. We first need to get Git managing our code files. So there are 4 of these files which we need to add to our Git repository. stingthecatapult.cpp, which is the actual code that we just wrote, then .project and .cproject. And since we have a .settings folder this time, we'll add that too. So these are extra files that let someone else use your project in Eclipse, so very good to include. So now let's add these to the repository. So type git add, then name a file. Let's start with the actual Sting the Catapult code. You can hit enter, then repeat this command with .project, .cproject, and .settings. Now let's do git status again to see what's up. You'll see that these are now in green. Yay! Except they're not under Git's control quite yet. By adding them, we queued them up to be committed to our Git repository, but we still need to pull the final trigger and actually commit them to the Git repository. To do that, type git commit -m, and you can add a comment along with your commit. I'll just say first commit, and hit enter. Boom! They're added to your reh-poh, I don't know. So now that they're on Git, it's time to add them to GitHub. To do that, we need to create a separate repository on GitHub that we can push our Git repository files to. So let's log on to GitHub, click new repository, name it whatever you want. I'm naming mine Sting the Catapult, and do not initialize with a readme. Click create repository. And right now there's a whole lot of nothing in this repository, but we can change that. Copy this URL, go back to Git Bash and type git remote add origin, and then paste the link that we just copied. This links our Git repository to the GitHub repository that we just created. Finally, we need to push everything in our Git repository to the GitHub repository. Basically, we need to teleport Sting's code to GitHub. To do that, let's type git push origin master. Refresh your GitHub repo, and would you look at that, our files have been safely plopped down. Now the whole world can see, test, improve, and play with your code. You just contributed to the open source community. Plus, now this is added to your profile. For best practice, let's add a readme file, which basically acts as a description of your code. Now this might seem like a worthless little time waster thing to do, but this is worth doing for 2 reasons. Number 1, now everyone in the world can see that this is the code you wrote. They can use it, mod it, or suggest changes. I would say that's pretty dope AF. Number 2, there's a lot more to Git and GitHub than we've been doing so far. We're getting used to the basics right now, but remember, levels 4, 5, and 6 are coming. And when you're testing 5 different versions of your code or collaborating with 3 other coders on your project, you'll be so happy that you've got the basics down. But until then, remember, fear no algorithm. Peace out. Water Tribe.